Hello, and welcome to this discussion of securing sources by searching the library catalog. The image you see on this slide is a pre-computer library catalog. Each of these drawers contain hundreds of 3x5 cards covering each work in the library. Melville Dewey, the Dewey Decimal System inventor, decreed that every work would get an author card, a title card, and a subject card so that researchers could find books through 3 access points. This system grew through the 20th century, but things began to change in the late 1980s and 1990s with the widespread institutional use of computerized library cataloging systems. So how do you approach finding library sources now? First, you should understand some of the lingo. Just as you will have a better experience at the lumber yard if you know what a 2x4x8 stud is, you'll have a better experience working with librarians if you understand some of their jargon. Computerized library catalogs came to be called OPACs, Online Public Access Catalogs. Although few librarians continue to use this term, many still do. Another term you'll hear is metadata. This is a jargon term for cataloging information, those fields like author, title, subject, and others. When we reach the slide that discusses how to read a catalog record, you'll see how simple the definition of this jargon word really is. MARC is another. MARC is an acronym for Machine Readable Catalog Record. When catalogers created a record about library items, they use this language to fill out the catalog form that uses numbers as labels. You're most likely to encounter this word when a librarian is trying to help you and says, let's look at the MARC record, meaning let's check the online catalog. The last jargon word to know is OCLC, another acronym. It stands for Online Computer Library Center, a non-profit organization that maintains mainframe computers and server farms in Dublin, Ohio. OCLC maintains a searchable database of over 2 billion library records from more than 70,000 libraries in 170 countries. A single list of resources that are held by multiple libraries is called a union list, and that's what the OCLC database actually is. OCLC presents these marked-based records through a subscription database service called WorldCat. In a moment, we'll look at the WorldCat product and read a catalog record. Knowing how to access and search a library database and knowing how to read a catalog record will make your search for sources much easier, or at least a little less mystifying. Before we access the WorldCat catalog, let's take a moment to talk about keyword searching, because that's the strategy you're most likely to use to begin your search. Here are some pointers to more productive keyword searching. This stuff also works on web searches, though you'll have to check out the special hints area of any search engine to see what their quaint local practices are, such as whether you use parentheses or quotation marks to bundle search terms. First, keyword searching is generalized. You'll get a high noise to useful hits ratio, but it's a good opening research gambit. You can sharpen your search by using so-called Boolean operators, named for a 19th century British mathematician and logician, George Boole. The most important Boolean operators are the words and, or, not, and adj for adjacent. You can use these inside bundled search terms or between bundles of search terms. Always capitalize them. In addition, search engines, including WorldCat, allow for the use of symbols to indicate plurals or truncation. That is, to replace syllables for a wider search. For example, HISTOR plus the truncation symbol will return hits on history, historian, historical, and others. And there are also other wildcard devices, as they're known. Examine the search hints section for any search engine that you use. In WorldCat and similar devices, you can add search limiters such as SU to tell the engine to search only the designated subject fields, AU for author only, and TI for title only. Here's an example. Using the phrase SU equals parentheses civil ADJ war parentheses and TI equals parentheses Johnny ADJ Reb close parentheses, you get a hit on a book by an author named Bell Wiley called The Life of Johnny Reb. This is an important social history of life in the Confederate Army, and just so you don't think he's one-sided, he also wrote a companion book entitled The Life of Billy Yank. To get to the WorldCat database, point your browser at the URL Trojan.troy.edu. You'll see this screen. Locate and click the Troy Libraries button here, and this will take you to the Troy Libraries homepage. To get to any named database, go to this spot, Databases by Name, and use the pull-down menu to choose WorldCat. Then click the Go button here. This takes you to a sign-in page, so sign in and you'll go to the database. When you reach the database, you'll see the basic search page. Type in your keyword terms and click the search button. WorldCat then returns a list of hits that it thinks contains your search terms. You can see your search terms here, which is really handy if you have open multiple screens and you get confused. You can also see the number of items in the list called hits here. To the far left is the tab of the total number with a breakout of the kinds of returns to that tab's right. To see a detailed catalog record for any item, click its title. We've chosen the very first one. You click that and you receive a single item catalog record written by a cataloger in the MARC format. What do you see here? It's an eye-readable version with labeled fields such as author, title, and subject, as well as a few others. So let's learn to read this MARC catalog record. At the top is general condensed metadata about the item that's been harvested from the rest of the record. New works have pictures of their covers also. Here's a list of locations where you can find this item if it's not in your library. You can order books through Interlibrary Loan, also known as ILL. If the work is in your library, you'll see a message at this spot telling you this particular work is not in the Troy Library system. Need help citing an item? Click this link for more or less well-made bibliographic citations in various styles, including Chicago, which is also known as Turabian. This is the title area. This is the author's name. Next is publication information. Finally, a subject heading. Clicking this link will produce a list of materials in this massive catalog tagged with the same Library of Congress subject heading. Using subject headings to focus your searches is the subject of another lecture. So we've examined how to search a computerized library catalog, as well as some of the words and phrases you'll need to know as you improve your skills at gathering sources from this environment. We've also taken a step-by-step tour of accessing the WorldCat catalog as provided by the Troy University Library System, and we've learned how to read a catalog record. Much of this information is intuitive, and it can be applied to local library catalogs even when the interfaces are different from the one in WorldCat. That's because the MARC record format is the same throughout. In another lesson, we'll examine how to focus your library catalog search from keywords to Library of Congress subject headings so you can locate what you want quickly. This then concludes the lecture, and as always, thank you for your attention.